we all have patterns that we repeat over and over again. And it's like 90% of people repeat the same pattern over and over again. And they're repeating it because they don't understand the why behind it.
Welcome to Challenges of a Matchmaker. I am your host, Shai Tesler, and I am excited to have you watching today. For those who are new to the channel, Challenges of a Matchmaker is a series in which we sit down with matchmakers and relationship experts to discuss the real challenges behind the work. In every episode, we explore 3 areas: awareness and coaching, helping people recognize when they actually need guidance. The second is preserving relationship. Why new relationship often fall apart and what does it take to make them last? And the third is operational, the behind the scenes challenges involved in running a matchmaking business. My guest today is Holly McCusker. She is a relationship expert, matchmaker, and co-founder of Love Prescriptions, the Relationship Institute. She holds a master's degree in education and has spent more than a decade working in the dating and relationship space, including leading matchmaking and coaching program at one of the largest companies in the country. Today, she is building Love Prescriptions around a simple idea. Relationships require skills, and most of us were never taught them. Holly, thank you so much for joining us today in Challenges of a Matchmaker. For people who don't know you yet, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me. As it was a great introduction, and yeah, the past decade of my life has been spent in matchmaking, dating, relationship coaching, and just trying to figure out all the pieces so I can help others navigate dating and relationships. So it's been quite a journey.
So, can you tell me more about the Love Prescriptions
Yes,
program?
yes. So about 2.5 years ago, I started Love Prescriptions because based on what I learned in the matchmaking industry, people would come, they'd spend all of this money with the hope of an outcome. And the outcome typically for them would mean a partner. And often the outcome they would either leave disappointed with somebody, or what I added to my client journey was coaching. So I found that if they weren't leaving with a partner, they were actually leaving with something even better. They were leaving with a sense of self and an understanding of how they show up in the world, and especially how they show up in dating and relationships. So so I would add coaching into my matchmaking experience. We weren't paid for coaching or anything like that, but I found that it worked. It made the experience so much better for the client. And so my focus became the coaching pieces is really the foundational piece with matchmaking or anything in life, right? We need to really understand ourselves. We need to understand the dynamics we're in, especially in relationships. There's always a dynamic, and we're always part of that dynamic. So with that being said, my focus just was on the coaching piece being the pivotal piece. So when I left the match, I was able to help create a coaching program for this matchmaking agency, and it was tremendously helpful for the clients. It was amazing for the matchmakers because it took some of the burden off of them to work so closely with the clients on these pieces, and they weren't always equipped to do that. So we had separate coaches that worked with the clients and made their matchmaking experience better. So then when I went out on my own, I started Love Prescriptions, and I started it as a coaching company with courses. And then it's really evolved over time into what I am building now, which is an education platform. Because what I've learned is awareness is only one piece of the puzzle. People really need to practice these skills and then integrate them, or else they're not going to change these behaviors. And once they can really have an understanding of themselves, the dating process becomes a whole lot easier. And the success rate is a whole lot better in terms of having healthy, longer lasting relationships.
Thank you. Can you tell me about what you're developing? Is it okay to?
Yeah. Yes. So it's really cool. I love it. It's an educational platform with considering scale as well as still having that personal touch because relationships, dating, coaching alone is a very personal thing, so I don't want to take all of that out. But we do have a scaling piece where people come in and they take an entrance exam, sort of like school. We're making school fun again, right? So they come in and they take an entrance exam, and then they're going to receive results on 12 areas of relationship skills. So say they struggle with boundaries or they struggle with healthy communication, that's going to register at the top of their list of needs to focus on first. And then they're going to receive a daily prescription of, why these things matter and how to integrate them. And then they're going to have daily tasks, 21 days to create a habit. So they're going to have 21 days of one subject to understand, become more aware of how they show up in this quality or this trait, and then sort of practice this. So that's one part of the platform. So they'll have their own portal where they can be working on these things. But then we have courses that are designed specifically like Dating 101. They're out there, they're navigating either the apps or they're working with a matchmaker and they're struggling, they're coming across a lot of obstacles. So this course takes them through just the basic skills of relationships and really helps them become a better dater. We also have breakup courses. If they're navigating a breakup, that's a really pivotal piece that they work through that before they start dating again. So we have intensive courses on that. We also have the one-on-one coaching and the group coaching, as well as monthly webinars just to educate and bring community together, because I think community is a really important piece. So it's an ecosystem. It's quite,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it sounds like a really good plan. It sounds like it's something that it's truly needed in this world.
So needed. It really is the foundation. And I think once people can uh, create awareness around that and then start practicing and integrating, they're going to see a drastic difference in their dating and relationships, and not just romantic relationships, all relationships.
Yeah. And what about AI? AI. Everybody use AI.
I
You have
love
AI?
AI. AI makes everything go faster.
Yeah, but in your software, you put AI inside?
Yes, yes. AI has helped with a lot of the creation, right? But of course, I've been working with AI for 2.5 years, so I think he's really understands me and the way I think. So I think it's still representative of my knowledge and my experience over time and the way I think. So it's not a generic piece. You're not going to feel this to be generic at all, but it is an amazing aid to help out. So we're going to have like little coaching bots, things like that can help out and quick if people need a little coaching here. We have a wingman that helps you communicate better on the first date, things like that. So that's how we'll integrate the AI piece.
Wow. Okay, it sounds like looking forward for this, and I think people should definitely try it out. Again,
Absolutely.
how is it going to be called?
It is going to be called Love Prescriptions still. We will keep the same name, but it's the education platform, the skills you were never taught in school. So that's it's going to have like a school vibe to it. We're almost ready to launch. It's looking pretty great.
I'm looking forward to seeing it, to checking it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's jump into the questions. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, so the first question is in the area of awareness and coaching. And my first question is like singles today. What is the most common challenges that you see them struggle with?
Yeah, I think it does go back to the awareness piece, right? Where there's so much information out there and people are receiving information from multiple sources. Much of it is online. TikTok, people get a lot of relationship advice from TikTok, and it's not always verified, or, it's not always accurate. So they're getting so many different messages. And I think they're losing self trust, right? So they're not going into internal and saying, "Does this feel okay for me?" They're like kind of wanting a quick fix, or how do I fix this, or how do I get? They want a result, right? Everything is quickly results driven. I want this fast, and relationships and this journey can't in awareness can't happen that fast, right? You have to go take the time to pause, regulate the nervous system, really understand how you're showing up out there. And I think with all of this noise and mixed messages, it makes it very difficult. So I think that's one big piece that's challenging. Um, so many options out there, but again, the road to get to the road to like the journey, right? So you want this outcome, but you haven't really walked the path. You haven't really understood what it is to walk that path to get to the outcome. And when I say that, I mean you want the relationship or you want the partner, but you don't really know that. Like you don't have the skills along the way to know how to show up in that relationship in a healthy manner. That's what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way, but yeah.
But there was something you say in the beginning of the answer is that, like you said, that you get advice from TikTok. And then it got me thinking. I recently interviewed a matchmaker, and she told one of her tips was you go on a date, you need to be able to put your boundaries, okay, but not in a way that you will close yourself, okay?
Yeah.
And then I interview another matchmaker. They said it in a different way. And so if I hear this on TikTok, I like put boundaries, okay? And this is like I get it from TikTok as a tip, and then I go up put boundaries. And if I do it in the wrong way, I got myself closed emotionally, and I wasn't open to get the experience. So I think it's great to watch tips, but also to have a full program.
Right. And one size does not fit all. You can talk about boundaries to someone, but what we really need to understand is what created that boundary in the first place or lack of boundaries, right? If someone has a hard time inserting boundaries, there's a reason for that. So we need to really understand that person individually. How did they get to this place? That they're either protecting themselves or they want to be chosen so badly that their boundaries are down and they're going to do whatever they can to be picked. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody's individual. So we can't put that blanket message about boundaries on everyone. There's tips, there's fine, you can listen to it. But someone who, you know, has very strong boundaries is going to not respond to that message or not be able to integrate that tip the same way someone else would that has healthy boundaries.
And like having a full program, it's like understanding the why behind it, and
Yes.
like knowing when to put this, why it's true, and like maybe when it's true and for whom it's true.
Exactly. We all have patterns that we repeat over and over again. And it's like 90% of people repeat the same pattern over and over again. And they're repeating it because they don't understand the why behind it. And so understanding that piece is the first step. But then we have to decide to take that next step, which is to practice a different way of doing something. And that requires us to pause and really understand what's happening to our nervous system, regulate our nervous system, and make a different choice and make that different choice multiple times so it becomes a habit and we integrate it.
Yeah. And when this awareness kicks in, like people start coaching, and then you learn to know them, and then like maybe you reflect what you learned, and then like there is I imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe it's not in one moment, but it's like, I didn't
Yeah,
realize. Is there
totally.
such moment?
That's a lot of moments in coaching because the onus is on the client to realize these things. It's not as if they're being told, it's not do it this way or do it that way. It's getting them to understand. So, bringing the parts of themselves out that they didn't realize were running the show, so it's having those epiphanies, those moments. And then when it comes from the client and not from the coach or the therapist telling them, it's such a stronger and more changeable behavior when they come to this realization on their own.
It is a strong moment, like, and this is the biggest moment when it actually falls. Like, if people can give you advice all day long, but if you don't see them within yourself.
Yeah, you'll resist it, right? So if you are the one that has the realization, it's much more easier to change that, or you're going to be more invested in changing that because you've come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
So the coach is just there to help you get to those conclusions, help you find the journey.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, and I hope I'm not wrong, I think Galileo say that you can teach a man nothing, you can only help him to find it within himself.
That is exactly coaching. I love that. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Once awareness show up and they, how much time does it, how fast is it that they start changing behavior and seeing different results?
Well, it's going to be different for everyone, right? So it just depends
Yeah.
on really like how much are they aware to begin with? What's their starting point of awareness? And then where do we need to go from there? So, very important in coaching that you meet the client where they are, not have this expectation that they're going to be this extremely self aware person by the end of week two. But I think anyone who stays open to the process and leads from curiosity will see big changes quickly. And I've definitely seen that with my clients transforming their lives. And I have people come in with breakups. I think that's a great place to start with coaching because often people don't want to sit with that pain. It's so difficult. So they want to move on to either isolating themselves or moving right back into dating quickly. But if they don't resolve the issues and the dynamics that were occurring in that relationship, they'll repeat the same pattern. So when a client comes in at the breakup point and we work through that first, it's really magnificent what happens then when we move into dating and relationship. And I've seen numerous times where that client, their next partner, becomes their fiance or their husband or wife. So it's pretty cool how that works. But we can't get there until we work through the stuff we don't really want to unpack.
Mm. Thank you. And this section of awareness and coaching, if there is one gift takeaway, something that you can say to people of watching, what would it be?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have different goals in life. Some people it's to make as much money, some people it's to build a large family. I think one of the biggest investments we can make is on ourselves because our relationship with self impacts all the other relationships we have. So if we take the time to spend on understanding our own dynamics, where we came from, what shaped us, it will make our lives so much easier to live with ourselves and then to live with others and show up in all different areas of life.
Thank you. Next question is about preserving relationship. People start dating, and I know it's a common pattern. People date for 1 month, 2 months, and things doesn't last. And at least it was a pattern for me when I was single. What is the most common mistakes you see new couple make at the beginning of a relationship?
Oh, probably making assumptions and not communicating in a healthy manner, right? So I think people always have these expectations. They come in a lot of times with their list and that they want this person and they want them to check off all these boxes, and then they assume that translates into the relationship. They expect a person to act or see the world through their own lens, which they don't. We all see everything through a different perspective. So I think it's not having those conversations about how you see the world. You might have the same value, but you could see it through a different lens, right? Um, so it is just, how does this impact you? Having that conversation, really understanding where that person is coming from. One of the biggest questions I have my clients ask early on in dating and relationships is, what shaped you? If somebody needs to know why they are who they are today, like what are the things that led them to be who they are, and that involves, like we said, having porous or secure boundaries, having, we all have origin wounds, right? So what makes you fear abandonment? Because that's going to become really important in conflict. If somebody shuts down and the other person fears abandonment, that's going to be almost tragic for them to experience, right? So it's sharing these things, knowing yourself first and being able to share that with a partner. And I think when we go into relationships assuming somebody else understands us just because we're talking, that's a big pitfall.
Yeah. How does good communication looks like?
A lot of
Like,
it is active listening, right? We have to be able to sit with some difficult conversations and not put up our defenses. So I like to tell my clients, and I use this myself, but like have a once a week or once a month where you can sit down in a safe space and you can share two things that you think are going great in the relationship and one thing that you want to work on. And that's like, it's not in a high conflict time. It's where everything is just, peaceful, and you know that this is going to come up, because a lot of times people feel attacked in conflict, right? So if we can lay down our armor and just talk about it, and not from a place of attack, you did this, you always, all that. Not, you have to be careful with your language, but how it impacts you. So sharing that with a partner is that it makes a huge difference. Just having that peace and committing to it and staying consistent with it, and that helps you learn your partner as well when they show up. And just really, I can't say enough about creating a safe space, right? Because I mean, going back to childhood, oftentimes we were told you can't feel that way, you shouldn't say that, you have to think this way. So we need to be able to trust ourselves that what's showing up for us is important, and that we can articulate that and share it with a partner, and that they'll be willing to listen and have that conversation around maybe why they're doing that in the certain way they're doing it, and how they can each do better. It's a compromise.
You said listening, and there is also the other side, which is asking a question. You say something about not accusing, and I understand it's coming from more a secured place. But how do you recommend for, let's say there is a conflict? How do you recommend that the question will be asked? In what way?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's when you're ready, can we have a conversation? So it doesn't, you're not coming directly at the person as an attack. Like, you yourself regulate your nervous system. So you're not coming from the anger, what's the emotion behind this? So once you can take some deep breaths and ground yourself, then you come in and you say, when you're ready, can we have a conversation? And then I would like to share what's going on inside of me. So it's not you did this or you did that. It's not I want to share my experience with you, as opposed to, yeah, because the other person is already waiting for, what did I do wrong? What is wrong with me? Right? There's a lot that can be shame attached to that, which once you feel that shame, you're shutting down, and that the conversation's over.
Got it. So what happened makes me feel like this, and then it's, you don't speak about them, you speak about what happened, and you speak
Yes.
about how you feel, and like the other person is not in the picture, and he doesn't need to protect himself because
Yes.
he's not a.
Absolutely. And I think once you're creating more of that awareness, you're actually understanding, most of the time when we're having a heightened reaction, it isn't just about that moment. It's about all the moments prior to that in life that built up, right? So if we don't stop and pause and regulate, we're going to let all of that out on that person, and that person is going to feel attacked. So if we can, pause and then create that awareness, this is what's happening for me right now. I know it isn't just about my partner. It's also about the times when I was a little kid when this happened and I felt a certain way. So when you can share that, it helps that your partner create more empathy for you, and then they're going to be more open to a resolution.
Thank you so much. It's really good answers. When two people start dating as a matchmaker, how much you are involved in the process? Like, you
Well,
meet with them daily, weekly? Is there a protocol? Like, let's meet every day, or it's when they need you?
yeah, I think it comes down to individual, right? Because you'll have some clients who want to just have their own experience and check in with you every couple of months and tell you how it's going. And then you'll have others who you've probably coached before, and they saw the value in the coaching, and they know I still need this coaching as I move through the dating and move into a relationship with this person. So for me, I may still be coaching that person as they're developing this relationship, which is ideal, right? We've already worked through, um, we've already set the foundation. We already, like, I'm so aware of their skills, what might come up for them now in this dating process. So now we're still meeting regularly, either every week or every other week. So that could happen with me and the client. Um, and again, that really is, I find it really helpful in the first few months. Sometimes people want to do it for the first year of a relationship because relationships go through like go through different phases, right? And then we're navigating different phases of that with them.
So the communication happens for each one when he has a conflict or he needs a guidance.
I find it's both, but I find men want to talk when there's conflict. Men want to have an extra coaching call, or can we hop on a call when there's conflict, because they want to understand how to navigate it. And for a lot of men, and I've done this with everyone, people have a very difficult time sitting with uncomfortable feelings. So if I can hold that space for their difficult, uncomfortable feelings, and they can work through those feelings, they're much more apt to go back to that their partner and be able to talk through whatever it is that's coming up, because they've let the feelings go.
At what point does a matchmaker usually need to step out once a relationship has begun? I think it's the same area, but is there a point that the matchmaker, it's more healthy that she will step out? When, how long are you going to, because before that you say it could be also a year, right?
Yeah, so I think because I spend a lot of time coaching my clients, and not every matchmaker is a coach. So with a matchmaker who doesn't coach, they probably wouldn't have that same regular cadence with their client afterwards. But I think they may spend, check in at 2 months, check in at 6 months, whatever they decide is best. But eventually, I mean, some clients will move into a relationship and you won't even know what's going on with them. They just keep it private, right? Or they'll give a vague response. So it is very individual. And then you'll have certain clients that want to let you know monthly how things are going. And we always love updates, especially when they're positive. We love to hear what's happening with the client journey. So we, if they don't check in with us, we may reach out to say, hey, what's going on? And of course, the best feeling is when you reach out and they say, we're engaged, or they share that with you. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sounds exciting, those moments.
Yeah, those moments are golden. Yes, I can still remember my first engagement, so it really makes an impact.
Me and my girlfriend, I introduced a Israeli guy to her best friend, and they got married.
You were a matchmaker.
Yeah, I was a matchmaker. Me and my girlfriend, we were matchmakers. Yeah,
That's great.
funny. Yesterday, someone told me I should be a matchmaker.
There you go. I bet you could. Yeah, it'd be great. Just a little side gig.
Thank you. Another question in this area: if there is in preserving relationships, if people watching and there is one gift, one takeaway that you can give them that will help them help sustain the new relationship, what will it be?
Yeah, I would say stay open, stay curious, really try to understand how your partner shows up, what's important to them, healthy communication, being really open to navigating the difficult moments, not being afraid of conflict, because conflict is what creates connection. Vulnerability is what builds connection. So if we're trying to show up as performers in a relationship or dating, it's ultimately going to end, or it's going to not going to end well, because we're only dating, like we're dating the mask of somebody, right? So try to show up as authentically as you can, and as time goes on, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because again, that is what builds connection. um, Without it, you won't have that strong love you're most likely looking for.
Thank you. And that's one of the question in operational, running a matchmaking business.
Yeah.
People don't know what it means to run a matchmaking business. Can you tell a little bit about your work, what you're doing.
Yeah. So, I can still remember when I got into matchmaking over 10 years ago, and I never realized the emotional tax it would take on me as an empath. So I take on everybody's feelings and emotions. So there is this desire and want to help people find their love, right? So really, you honestly have to create boundaries for yourself so you don't fully get like you have to not insert yourself in their experience. Like you want to be part of their experience, but you can't have this expectation that you're going to be able to find everybody their love, right? So working on yourself in this is really important. But at the same time, it is really important to not only understand what your client is saying, but understand what actually is under the surface. Because a lot of times that first level is a protection, right? Or that checklist is often a protection or outsourcing. So we really need to get underneath it all and find what truly do they value, what truly do they want. And when they're asking for things that are unrealistic in a sense, what's behind that? What's creating that want for them? Because oftentimes it's a void for themselves. It's their outsourcing. So I think it's so important to spend time with the client and really dig in. I only would work with clients who can get curious about themselves. Anybody who's like, this is the way it is and that's it, I can't work with. So understanding the type of client you can work with is really important. And then, matchmaking is not easy in any way, shape, or form. Then it's finding that person for them and then having that same conversation with those candidates, with those potential candidates to make sure that they are a fit, right? To make sure their values are in alignment and they understand themselves to a level. Um, and then again, and then you go into curating the date and having the experience and hoping everybody shows up and it's a great date. And then again, navigating what happens afterwards, coaching that client to the date, having hoping that they'll stay open and curious on that date and then having that conversation, that feedback call afterwards to see how everything went. And it's always like a learning experience and a growing experience. So, what can we do differently next time? Is there anything you learned about yourself? Um, and then how do we move forward? Are we going to date multiple people or are we going to just focus on one? There's all of these different types of conversations that we have with clients during this experience. So it's a pretty intimate relationship you have with these individuals.
What is the parts of your work that is the most hard for you to do?
Yeah, I think what I experience, and I think many others experience, is just finding the right people and having that. There are a lot of matchmakers out there, and that are sharing resources and have, are sharing recruiters and things like that. But I think ideally bringing all of that together is amazing. Like if you have like a pool of singles that are not only wanting to date, but they're also open to matchmaking, right? Because that's a whole different experience. You have to trust someone else to put you out on that date, right? So I think the recruiting piece can be very challenging for matchmakers. So it's just having access to those people because there are a lot of people out there that are single and wanting to date. So having access to them um, and 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 more like having that together in a sense, like a pool of people. I also think there's a lot of daily tasks. You might, depending on how the matchmaker works, you might send weekly updates, or sometimes people want to just send coaching tips, or they saw an article. So having that system running where you don't have to individually do that each time, where you can just have it set up so it's sending that out weekly or monthly or however you want to do it. And then just keeping track of who is up for a match, who's ready to go out on a date, and having all of that together in one place is amazing.
So it's like marketing, and how do you reach people? Client come to you and you don't have someone in your pool. So what do you do?
Yep. So I work on a lot of referrals. I don't keep a whole lot of matchmaking clients because my focus is on coaching. So anybody who comes to me for matchmaking, it is a referral, and I am very selective about who I take on there. Um, so but I know that people use for marketing, they'll use a lot of social media, and I do a lot of social media for my coaching. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram, and I do sometimes I'm on LinkedIn as well. So sharing your brand there is really important, and getting on doing podcasts like this, going to community events, getting out into your own community, and having singles events, things like that. I'll do webinars, free webinars to invite people in so they can learn who I am and what I offer.
It's a lot of work being
Yeah,
a mage.
a lot of work, a lot of balls in the air. Yes. Yep.
And like, are you a team or is just you?
No, I have a team. I have some coaches that work for me, as well as I have an engineer that helps me build. So
Awesome, awesome. Holly, thank you so much for joining today on Challenges of a Matchmaker. I learned a lot. Your perspective is very unique. If people want to learn more about you and find you, how can they find you?
yes, thank you. They can find me at loveprescriptions.com. I have a website, as well as I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, new to TikTok, but I'm on TikTok, all at Love Prescriptions.
Got it. And I will put all the links below in the description of this video, of the YouTube video. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shy. I'm
Thank,
glad.
thank you so much. Bye for now.